Okay, so all these payments are definitely spiritual attacks. Like, once I realized how deep this shit went, I almost went crazy. Like, I probably could have been institutionalized because I was seeing like all these synchronicities. Like, I was going through so much. But let's get into it though, right? First of all, have you noticed when you're going through it the most, more things pile on? Like, there was a point in time where things were tight for me financially. Then all of a sudden, I got a fucking parking. I got a ticket. I got two tickets. One was because I wasn't parked close enough to the curb. What the fuck? Are you kidding me? I wasn't even. This police officer said, "You're not parked close enough to the curb." I wasn't obnoxious, right? It wasn't like, oh my, I was in the middle of the street. I was even a quarter away from the street. It was like, I wasn't enough inches enough. It gave me like a literally 1 inch something something. I'm like, wow, is this how they're moving with tickets? Like, it's so deep over here where it's almost like when you need something financially the most, it's like all of the bills start stacking up on top of each other. Withdrawals start happening. Letters get sent. It's like when you're in the tightest position that you possibly can be, everything starts to build up. It's absolutely chaotic and insane. Okay? Because let's even think about the American system for a fucking second. Let's think about all the fucking systems in the fucking world. I can't believe I'm cursing this much because it's this deep, bro. When I'm sitting here, right, I'm thinking the fact that you have parking tickets, that's the one, and it's because I'm in like LA, that's probably why. But that's one of the biggest things is the parking tickets. You can't travel anywhere. How are you supposed to travel for a long period of time on your own when you have to worry about who's going to park your car? So now you're pretty much paying for the fact that you're not at home. You have to pay to say, hey, I'm not here, so. And then your car's probably going to get towed if you want to be gone for weeks at a time. And then once that car gets towed, you got to pay a good $400 to untow it so I can get my car back. Because more often than not, right, on a collective level, most people are at home. Most people aren't taking holidays. Most people are working. So cars are going to consistently move. Cleaning spots will consistently be available to clean. But for whatever reason, we're now in a position where you have to think of, damn, who's going to park my car? And then you have to ask a friend for a favor. And what if you don't have friends? What if your friends are working or they don't live that close? They can't afford to come park the car. So you have to either take the car to your friend's place and then you got to pay for an Uber. So you still got to pay something extra just to leave the country in this America here. And on top of that, on top of all of that shit, man, you're still having to pay a lot of money to just leave the country. But that's the thing. Let's compare it to Nigeria, because that's where I'm from. That's where I go to consistently. And this isn't even comparing countries, really. It's just to say that every system is fucked. It's all spiritual. It's all spiritual attacks. In Nigeria, the thing is, yeah, if you even have a good paying job, right? Like average Nigerian can make 300,000 naira. That's like $200 to maybe almost $300 a month, bro. Almost $300 a month. I'm surprised that that is the pay. I know that, yes, the currencies are different, but why is the currency that low? Why do we even have fucking currencies that have scales to it? That someone who's living decently here can live really good in certain countries. Why is that imbalance even existing? That lets you know that that's already a spiritual attack because there is already a huge imbalance of that reality being true. We shouldn't have scales of currencies, but we do because spiritual attack. I keep saying this shit, man. Yes, we can all pay for things. Yes, there could be some sort of exchange for your time, because one person can't do everything. So if you want me to exchange your time, if you need a skill or asset, I need something back, because that is harmony. So money is a part of harmony. It's just making sure that you're moving right with it. It's still harmonious. Okay? And then secondly, right? When you think about Nigeria, you don't have to think about no fucking parking ticket. There's a relief you get from that. I'm telling you, I don't know what it is about parking tickets, but there's just a relief knowing that you don't have to worry about a parking ticket. You can park anywhere that's available. That's normal. Why? Like that, anywhere that's available is normal. You're not being obnoxious. Tickets should be for obnoxious behaviors like, let me go park in the middle of the road. Let me go block someone's driveway. Let me take someone's parking spot that isn't mine when there's a visitor parking spot. That is ticket worthy, tow worthy situations, because it's obnoxious, because you're not caring about the environment. You're not caring about those around you. But when you bring it down or go into detail about how these things work, you start to realize that you just start to realize major things. You start to realize that none of that makes sense. Okay, I don't even know why I paused deeply on that part, but the point is that is a huge spiritual attack. But when you go into the better areas, houses, apartment complexes, whatever the case, if you go to even certain areas where it's like you just need a permit to park, and anyone who doesn't have a permit gets a ticket, even if you go to those areas, you get a relief that you can travel, you can leave your home and not have to worry about that payment. And most people do want to abide by things. Most people don't want to be obnoxious, believe it or not. People want things to go smoothly in their life. And those who don't. But those who do are going to be mindful about that. So that's what I'm saying. It's people who are well-intentioned, well-hearted in their mind. They're like, I'm kind-hearted here. I'm well-intentioned here. I don't want to break these rules. But look how I broke that down in just talking about spiritual topics. Look how I even connected that. Okay? So let's now that we've spoken about that part, let's get into the fact that all these payments are spiritual attacks. Let's talk about the credit system and getting an apartment in America. Why the fuck do I need credit? If I can pay consistently, I can pay consistently. I know you need proof, and I know that there's probably been a lot of layers where people can't pay their rent, so it does affect the owner's finances. It affects, but then let's talk about the property tax. I need someone to break this shit down. I probably need to research this more on my own, but why the fuck do property tax exist? Why don't you just get a house and know that your house is there forever? I feel like that's an attack, because in Nigeria, all you need is your deed signed, and you can pass on your house from generation to generation without ever having to worry about paying any bill, because that land has been paid for. Why the fuck are you having to now pay a bill off the land you already bought? So now you have to get taxed for even existing, so now when you want to pass anything down and know that the people that you're passing the house down doesn't have to worry about the rent, you can't even do that because the property tax is the rent. So it's just constant heaviness, constant concern when you're here in this space, especially spiritually, that even when you are acquiring wealth, you have to guarantee that generations and generations will be able to keep it. By that point, you can't ever fully guarantee that because you're not alive to see it. But it does become really heavy when you're in a position to be concerned, you know? So at this point, it's a spiritual attack. Because spiritual attacks will have you think, wow, when I leave, will my kids be able to keep this house? That shouldn't even be a thing, but it is. So it's just a system, the circulation where even now it's like credit score. Oh my gosh. Credit score, get an apartment, all these things. You can't just get the apartment and know that the income's coming. It's all these layers and all this weight and all this heaviness. When really you could build a home. People were building homes at points, right? There was that, like, people just knew, once I built this home, I'm good. I'm good for life, and any child that comes after me will be good as long as the home is intact. And then even then you could leave the home and then know someone else can take the home. And then maybe, yes, on a modern day scale, you're technically going to put your papers in and transfer everything and say, hey, now I give this house to you, sure. But at least you can do that, get a payment, move on. That person can keep that house forever and never worry about anything else. Sadly, that's not the position any of us are in. I mean, yeah, in parts of the country, parts of the world, thankfully. But the fact that we can't collectively do that everywhere when we can, because everyone is living on land. Everyone has electricity. Everyone has sunlight. Everyone has air. Like, there isn't any major difference other than time zones. Everything on Earth is literally the same. And yes, there's different hubs and stuff, whatever, right? But it's just the fact that we have all these huge, like all these major different rules in different parts of the world. And then we have all these barriers. You have all these payments. You have all of this range, and it's like, but everything's technically the same. Okay, technically. That's a spiritual attack. The fact that you have to pay to be able to travel. Like, I mean, I get paying for traveling in terms of airplanes. There's people who are risking that time, their lives to get you to where you're going. But the point is, you should be able to travel anywhere and know, okay, I'm traveling here, and I just go through the requirements of like maybe illnesses and stuff like that. Like, even getting a dog over from like Nigeria to America can cost like thousands of dollars. Like, even a whole dog, man. Like, are we serious? It's all very much attack. So just imagine you're trying to like be present, live your life in the moment, and then these moments get hit with, here's a ticket here. Oh, here's this payment here. Oh, if you want to get here, you have to go through 10 procedures. Imagine trying to be in the moment with all of that fluff. But we do what we can, because as human beings, we are adaptable, we're flexible, so we make do in the ways that we can. But you just have to be aware of those attacks. And then once you're aware of those attacks, right, which is the payments, you're just like, okay, boom, boom, boom. Like, you build like the stamina to get used to it. But you also have to grow. Most people get used to it and get stuck on this like cycle of having to just live life and pay for it, and be here instead of like expanding and saying, okay, I'll do that, but then there's more that I can put my mind into. That's really the biggest thing. The spiritual attacks is about the mind. It's not about like your feelings. It's just, how can we distract the mind so we can distract you from yourself? And those payments is exactly what it does. When you're having to worry about payments that you shouldn't really have to worry about. That's the biggest thing. So and then imagine having kids. Like, shout out to all the parents, because it's difficult having children on top of having all those cycles that you have to go through mentally. And then now you're like, you have to make sure that there's income. And there's nothing wrong with actually making sure there's income. It's more about where our income and energy goes to. And you would think, and you'll be sitting here trying all these different things, trying to open up your mind, and then you get hit with the finances, you get hit with those concerns. Like, of course, it weighs on the human psyche. And then our psyche gets occupied with things that aren't tied to expanding or growing or loving. It gets occupied with worry and concern, and this bill needs to be met. Even if you want to travel and you don't have a decent house, you may live in a decent area, you still got to think about who's going to move this car. I have to pay to leave. Just imagine that. Having to pay, know that there's parking tickets that you're going to have to pay for in order for you to leave the country. Wow. I really can't get over that. But the point is, man, or not the point, the realizations that we can have right now is just to know these paychecks are just things to flick over like flies. Like, don't let it feel like a brick when it's just a fly. Because the brick is when we can't breathe and shit. The brick is when things get, you know, when the health doesn't go where it needs to go. That's really the brick. That's why they always say health is wealth. Because you can actually live through a healthy body. But when the body starts deteriorating, you can't really live that way. Chronic pain, like, whew. Health is the truest form of wealth, 100%. So the payments are flies. The numbers, the money are flies. Or feathers, let me say that. We don't need to compare it to flies, but feathers. It's fluffy. We don't need to turn feathers into stone. The stone is the health. So, and that applies to a healthy mind, like how you're thinking, how you're processing, what you're connecting to. You know, things that you enjoy, like that all adds up to a healthy mind. So when it ends up being very tight and rugged and everything feels like stone in your brain, and it's probably going to turn into your body too. That's why people are like inflamed, and there's so many people like all these different foods and everything that people are connected to and not moving or anything. Like it's going to make you physically feel that way, and now your mind's that way. And like, how can you be abundant in that reality when everything feels like stones being weighed down? So let's feel more like feathers. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate this vibe. Peace.